Before anything is said, let me just say one thing and one thing only. We back, babies, with another Marvelous Monday review for Season 2 this time of Cloak and Dagger. Now, I'm pissed because this should have at least been a 4-season show. We're gonna get into why I say this the further we go into this. But this is also going to be a blind thing for Shan over here because we're going to be doing a few different things that I did not do for season 1 that I actually did for a different weekly review show of Snowpiercer Saturdays coming back this winter. I'm going to actually be showcasing to you guys a bunch of the images and names of all of the important people that are going to be in the show for you guys, which means longer edits that might make this be a week after it's supposed to be released. Yay! So, episode 1 of season 2, Restless Energy, kicking off a few months after the events of season 1. Obviously, we have two different narratives of the focal point, but it's all also tying back into O'Reilly for a certain degree. But let's do the Light Force side with the Dagger perspective from Shan.
Hi. Okay. So we first start off where you see Tandy doing ballet. You know, she's getting back into it. She's trying to get back into normal life, socialization, whatever. Which then flashes forward to seeing Tandy and her mom go to a support group meeting where her mom talks about where she went wrong, how she felt, and then saying that she basically feels kind of bad for Tandy for everything that she put Tandy through, to where Tandy says everything that she did, she completely understands why it happened that way, and she calls her mom heroic. Aww. So, so there's apparently a new member in the support group. I didn't get her name, and I apologize. But basically, she was asked if there's anything she would like to say during the support meeting as a new member and stuff, to where she basically says that she's just here to basically listen. She's doing this because her friend said that if she doesn't, she's going to crash hard. Basically, what that means is she's in an abusive relationship with her boyfriend, who I believe his name is Jeremy or Jimmy.
Something with a J.
Something with a J. I think it's Jeremy, but anyway. So, during this time, you see bruises on her wrists where she drops her wallet. At the end of the meeting, she tells her mom that she, meet you in the car, where she picks up the wallet and hands it over to this woman. What we don't know until a little later on is that she actually took a picture of her ID to know where she lives and all that information, which you'll know why she did in a moment. To where then Tandy meets Ty at the church, because as you guys remember, that's where he's staying now, because he's on the run, which will let Vince talk a little bit.
Wow. Running away from bullets.
So, few months into everything, as I'm looking at Buddy, who's sitting in my former director's chair being so adorable, Ty has gone stir crazy to where he has been targeting a bunch of different drug dealers. Now, unlike many people in our family, I am the only person that has enough experience to talk about this on a personal level, so this is going to be a very interesting episode. It's going to have so many people being like, Vince, how you know all this? So they have two district corner boys that are actually being used by the courier system of one of the local gangs. They're trying to use those corner boys to collect revenue from their drug clientele and from the local prostitutes that they're putting on their small payroll that they have from the local pimps throughout the district of New Orleans. Said courier is trying to get from the corner boys their own lot in everything because the money distribution goes back to the main gangs that ends up having their whole power structure for territories, the main focal point of New Orleans in said area around, I would probably say northwest region of sorts, kind of near Ty's church that he's staying that used to be Tandy's. But he's tailing them because he himself wants to stop them from distributing all the drugs and whatnot, as well as how they're a much unneeded environment for everything, mostly because of the drug runs, the gun sales, and everything that goes into play that we don't really see addressed in the MCU that much. Why? I could say a lot of things, but my Kevin Feige's a bitch counter has not been moved in yet. That's next episode. So, Ty is lifting all of the drugs and money, which, although a stir is more for a lower quality gang that just got their territory, roughly around a few years, not enough to have a foothold, but enough to have the New Orleans Police Department take notice. There's a degree as well as a structural pattern that comes with gangs and how they do stuff with a structural basis for guns, trafficking, for weaponry, or for drugs. Two different things, actually, that you do not know about in real life, as well as a prostitution ring that may or may not be sex trafficking at the same time. Again, two different things. Never taught that well. So, why is this such a big distinction? Because he's delivering the evidence to O'Reilly, who has not been well after being shot and turned into Typhoid Mary, although she doesn't know that she got turned into Typhoid Mary, but we'll address that in a future episode about what that means. However, Mary is pissed that Tyrone is doing something the cops didn't do. Stopping the fucking gangs from distributing stuff that creates a problem for New Orleans. 'Cause it's not in the way of justice. 'Cause they gotta get evidence to stop the gangs from distributing stuff instead of just handling it to where they're putting fear of someone literally rocking their shit. 'Cause that's all the things that gangsters respect. The law. Yeah, that is the dumbest fucking thing for me to be told, that NOLA was gonna do something. No, they were not. They were not. So, Ty has a guilty conscience. I can relate to this. I have a heavy thing involving guilt, so kindred spirits. But, obviously, we then enter the first thing of the Cloak and Dagger bridging thing, where both me and Shan can talk about this stuff. If I could get my editing software fixed up properly, I would have an actual transition marker here for you guys about each different thing with a nice little title thing, but I don't have that software. That's for next year. So, what's the first bridging effect, you might be wondering? It's movie night! And they are not... They are not beating those "we are not dating" allegations. They are truly dating when you look at them in certain regards in this episode alone. So, movie night, they're picking out The Mask of Zorro. Not the Antonio Banderas version, get that poster off the screen. No, it's one of the black and white versions. You know, where they're using brown face, but they hid it because it's black and white. So it's not totally racist. It's just implied racism. And what are they doing this whole time? They're trying to play catch up. They're trying to do a lot of stuff. But they're also trying to discuss how they're doing not being street level superheroes. I can only speak for Ty because I'm doing Ty's perspective. Shan can only speak for Tandy because she's doing Dagger's perspective. But for Ty, he's trying to hide a lot of things about how he's going stir-crazed mad because he can't go home. He can't go to a school that he hates because he is a black man in a mostly white school in the dirtiest South where there are barely any white people, but surprisingly just a lot of white people at a prep school where he beat the shit out of that one kid in season 1. Almost got expelled, would have still gotten expelled because he beat the shit out of a white kid. You know, the things that apparently he missed. Ty, we have to talk about your fucking therapy bill. And also how he misses his mom and his dad, who should probably be in jail for, I don't know, lying to the police because they could probably pull up some cameras and shit about how Ty may or may not have appeared at places that they were harboring him and they should have lost their job. But we're not going to talk about how real life is unfair for minorities. We did that enough in season 1. And also, he misses Evita. Who? Exactly. But he's trying to hide it from Tandy because he doesn't want Tandy to think that he's ungrateful for using the church to live in while he's evading the police for the supposed death of Connors. Connors isn't dead. He wishes he was. But he's not dead. He's going to wish he is for the rest of his life, though. We're going to get to that later. But when he asked Tandy how she's doing, well...
She's doing great. Supposedly. Quote unquote. Great. Meanwhile, while she's talking to Tyrone about everything, she's literally looking at the ID that she took the picture of from the woman's wallet. You know that thing I said earlier? Yeah, that thing. So she's literally just side looking at her phone to the side, still talking away Ty, looking at this woman, and then goes home. Basically says, I'm fine. Mom's doing great. So try and do her thing and move on.
That was a nice bridging effect, but we're now back to, of course, the split up section where we got the dagger perspective and the cloak perspective. But since Tandy's got a lot of screen time this episode, we got to go back to Tandy's solo perspective after this.
So if we go back to Tandy being with her mom, and they're trying to cook something. What they're cooking, I don't know. You ask me. You tell me. Little Noit? What the fuck? A little note, side note here. Folks, please learn the difference between a pinch and a dash. Anyway, so that conversation was happening. Apparently, it doesn't. They understand a pinch, like a pinch of salt, but they don't. Tandy doesn't understand what the definition of a dash is. So then Tandy tells her mom, like, "Oh my god, I'm late for a makeup ballet lesson. I gotta go. I gotta skip dinner." In reality, she's not going to ballet. No. Tandy goes to outside this woman's house. You know, the one from the support group. And she basically sees them having an argument, crashes out on the couch. Meanwhile, Tandy looks like an absolute psycho. It looks like she's about to murder somebody. To what I said, is a man about to get murdered? And then Vince said,
That's season 1, Tandy.
To then what I said, so she's gonna murder a woman. The joke didn't hit. Anyways, so anyway, no, she goes, no one was murdered. Although she probably very easily could have murdered him. Instead, she goes into their house, takes her light dagger, and carves into the house walls of "Leave her alone." Slams the door to where he wakes up and sees the lovely note on the wall. And then we go back to Ty.
Yeah, so Ty starts off the whole thing talking about the laws of thermodynamics. What's the law of thermodynamics? Bruh, I am not a physics major. I don't analyze the terms for thermodynamics. But the main crux of it is just that when a whole entire object, person, or ideology is put in motion, it does not stop. It just exerts more of a functionality, kind of like with vectors, how the redirection actually ends up causing further sort of accelerations towards said momentum, picking up more energy for more kinesthetic appeal to deliver more of an impact that could scattershot into other things if you were not careful. The reason for that is for thermodynamics, it really is about the science effect of if you do not know how to tunnel the affair properly, you do risk having issues going forward. What do I mean by this? And how the fuck do I know anything about physics, thermodynamics, and anything involving the scientific law? Well, firstly, I was almost a robotics major. I was actually given 3 scholarships for robotics. I turned it down. Second, Ty is bursting into a different gang's own drug facilities, where for the first time I think in Shan's life, she saw that a drug facility has a lot of people in underwear cooking stuff because it's mostly solidified methamphetamines. They were cooking meth. It seeps into your clothes. The stuff that they say in Breaking Bad is real, guys. That's why they have people in facilities in underwear to cook this stuff, because it seeps through the skin. The acid does burn through your flesh if it's really flammable stuff or if it's really psychedelic to cause you to have adverse effects that rots your brain, and you will not be the same for months, if not years on end. So, Ty is basically breaking in to steal their drugs, steal their money, and deliver it to Mary O'Reilly. Does it work out well? God, no. These people just curb stomp the shit out of him, where they're just like, who do you run with? They don't even wait for the man to talk. They still beating his ass. And I'm just like, how are you going to answer you if you keep kicking the shit out of him? Like, how does this work, sir? How does this work, bro? Like, what are we doing? But then Tandy arrives after trying to find him because she didn't want to go home after doing some light vandalism, and saves him so they can escape to the church for the second bridging effect. And technically, second bridge overall narrative, where I also glossed over the fact he was stalking his mom, his dad, and Evita. Who's Evita? Exactly. So, What's the meaning of this bridging part of the narrative for Cloak and Dagger for this time? Uh, they're finally being honest about how things are in their lives.
No lies. Well, kind of lying.
It's a little bit of lying, but they're just not happy right now. Ty is not doing okay. He's gone stir-crazed mad. He wants to do stuff, but since he can't be with his family and his stand-in before he dates Dagger, because he's never beating those allegations, he's just like, how do I do anything to stay sane? And that's what led him to try to stop a bunch of gang members from distributing drugs throughout his city. I mean, I would take up knitting. Ty decided to do some crime fighting. We're not the same.
Yeah.
And as for Tandy,
Basically, it seemed like she starts having a slight argument with Ty because obviously I thought originally she was gonna be upset because he was doing this shit and he lied, which obviously she knew. But she was basically made the comment about like she was upset that she wasn't asked to help him. Which made Vince react very funny and it just cracks me up.
a
Anyway.
squeeze?
So they have an argument. Ty says some choice words to her. She gets pissed at him and storms out. Which then goes back into the support group section to where the woman came back after nobody really suspected her to come back. And basically starts telling her about how Jeremy, I'm pretty sure that's his name. We're going to go with it still. Apparently needs him more than ever. Because when she got home, apparently a bunch of thugs came into the house and vandalized the whole entire place. And he was scared to death. Which made Tandy very mad. And then she goes back to the church.
Does she go back to the I thought she went to the thing.
Oh, right. Sorry. Well, first of all, Ty goes to see her when she's doing her ballet lessons. So then they go back to the church. Because he apologizes.
And now we get to the shared narrative about what the hell we're doing at the end of this episode. So Ty overheard O'Reilly about some stuff because NOLA PD is mad. Why are they mad? Gangs are yelling at the police, and the police are supposed to be afraid of the gangs, even though they're supposed to be doing some stuff where, by the way, this is a couple of months after the terror attack from when the terrors took over New Orleans. So, how do we still got a police department, bruh? How we got a police department? Because we saw a lot of people get possessed, and when you're a terror, you kind of just die. So, how they alive, bruh? How we still got a police department? Like, them's the questions I ask.
It's honestly a genuine question.
Like, it's a very glaring question of how we still got a police department in New Orleans after a terror attack. But we're going to table that because we will never get that answer, actually. So, they're breathing down O'Reilly as if Detective O'Reilly is responsible, but it's like, she wasn't there. You saw her at the precinct. You have CCTV cameras all over the place where it records where people's motions are. You could trace where her vehicle is at all time. How is she responsible? It's to create tension for what comes later, to feed into the Typhoid Mary narrative that we're going to have throughout this season. And she's going to internalize it to hate Tyrone and potentially Tandy, but we'll get to that. But Ty, being the guilt boy, is just saying sorry to Tandy. Again, I get it. Guilt conscience. Hard to break. How he knows what to do and he needs her help. So they're gonna break into a club by trying to look as cool as possible in order to get what they need, which comes with a small fashion transition. Where Tandy's just wearing a shirt with a belt, I think with shorts underneath. I don't know.
I hope with shorts underneath.
Like, if no shorts, then those allegations of are they dating or not are never going away ever again. I mean, it didn't go away when she was like, Ty, take off your shirt. So it's like, we sure y'all aren't just secretly dating and no one told anybody? Because we ain't gonna judge.
We listen and we don't judge.
But they somehow get properly prepared to go into a club, but not before they do this one segment that I was waiting for Shan to react to about hand holding. So
I'm so glad you brought this up. Here's a little also new side note, or a new like helpful tip. If you don't know the difference between hand holding, allow me to teach you. So, how do you prefer to hold hands? Waffles or pancakes? And if you don't know what that means, I'm going to educate you. This is the TED Talk of Cloak and Dagger with Shannon. So, if you lock your fingers together, that's waffles. If your palms are touching together, that's pancakes. And I'm so glad to know that Tyrone's preference is waffles. That was your TED Talk with Shannon. Hope you enjoyed my lesson.
So, for whatever reason of that educational topic, we finally get to the club. Ty is confused how they just got in when they didn't have to be in the line. But how you supposed to behave when you can't get in? When you get inside the club, you can't even get in. So they're just there. Ty's like, I got a tape recorder. I'm gonna put it under the table. We're gonna record what they're talking about. Send it to O'Reilly. Case is done. We get the drugs off the street. Smart plan. However, big problem. New player in the game that's suddenly killed everyone in the room. How? Well, no one else is in the room when it happened. So.
No one else was in the room when it happened.
So obviously, we have this whole big mystery of who killed the gang members, what truly happened. Are Cloak and Dagger going to be able to solve the case, or do we wait on NOLA PD to do their job? I couldn't keep it with a straight face.
Goddamn.
But yeah, that's how we kick off season 2 with a beautiful new mystery, brand new dynamics. Soundtrack was hitting this time, like jumping in more atmospheric than poppy in comparison to season 1. Like you could tell the atmosphere they're trying to give off in each scene with how the soundtrack was trying to go into play. Unlike with how bigger production stuff, like on the Disney Plus shows where they're just more of like the orchestral thing, I enjoyed the soundtrack for season 2 to kick off the way where the songs match up the tone to make it evoke more of an imprint for what's to come. Something we don't really get in the Disney Plus shows where it's more just the orchestral tells it, where it's nice, but it's too samey, so you don't get absorbed the same way. If you get what I mean, you get what I mean. But this was your first time, of course, Shan, so what were your thoughts for how season 2 kicked off with Restless Energy?
Honestly, I really enjoyed kind of seeing like this new side of Tandy. Like, obviously she's still the same old Tandy with the whole like going to the couple's house and like vandalizing the wall and like marking and whatever scriptures. I don't know. I might be a little drunk. I'm not drinking, but I might be a little drunk. So I really enjoy that aspect. As for Tyrone, I'm a little upset for him because I can understand how he would feel. Like I too would feel like kind of trapped and like bored and crazy at times. Overall, I feel like it was a good start to a new season.
Oh shit, we've got to talk about O'Reilly.
Oh yeah, that bitch.
We'll do it next episode.
Okay.
So, next episode's title is... Apparently they were not waiting for us for this one. The next episode is White Lines. So, we'll see you guys when we cross those lines.
We're
I had no other segue, so